The hard coat on a polycarbonate headlight lens is between 1/100th and 5/100ths of a millimeter thick. That is thinner than a human hair. It is the only thing standing between your lens and the ultraviolet radiation that will turn it into frosted glass. When that layer fails, and it will fail, you lose more than clarity. Independent testing shows that a 5-year-old plastic lens transmits an average of 43% less light than it did new. That is not a cosmetic problem. That is a safety problem. And the internet has 700 solutions for it, most of which do absolutely nothing. Today we tested 7 of them. Only 2 actually last. Here is what works, what fails, and exactly how to do the one that saves you the most. Before we get into the methods, get a flashlight and look at your lenses right now. Not from 10 feet away. Get your face close. If you see light surface haze with some clarity still underneath, you are in the treatable window. If the lens looks white or opaque all the way through, if there is crazing, or if the inside of the housing is fogged, you are past the point where any restoration method will hold. At that stage, you are replacing the housing, not polishing the lens. Know which situation you are in before you spend a single dollar. Now let us go through all 7 methods in order, starting with the ones that fail. Method 1, toothpaste. This is the most popular hack on the internet. It works on the same principle as any mild abrasive. The tiny particles in the toothpaste scuff the surface and remove a thin layer of oxidized plastic. You squeeze some onto a rag. You scrub it in circles. You rinse. For about 20 minutes, your lens looks noticeably better. Then the ultraviolet light hits it. Without any protective sealant to replace the hard coat you just abraded, that freshly exposed polycarbonate oxidizes faster than the layer you removed. You are back to hazy in under 3 months. Toothpaste does not restore. It borrows clarity from next month. Method 2, baking soda and vinegar paste. This one circulates in the home improvement corner of the internet. The idea is that the mild acid in the vinegar breaks down oxidation, and the baking soda provides abrasive action. The reality is that vinegar, acetic acid at roughly 5% concentration, is not strong enough to do meaningful chemical work on oxidized polycarbonate. The baking soda gives you marginal abrasive action with no follow-through. You might get 3 to 6 months of improved appearance in ideal conditions. No controlled test has shown this holding past 6 months under real ultraviolet and road exposure. Method 3, WD-40. This one has over 1 million views across multiple videos. WD-40 is a water-displacing petroleum distillate. It temporarily fills the micro-cracking on the lens surface with an oil film that makes the plastic look clearer, the same way wet glass looks clearer than dry frosted glass. It does not remove oxidation. It does not bond to anything. It evaporates and washes off in 1 to 3 months, sometimes faster. The lens goes right back to where it started. Method 4, Coca-Cola. The phosphoric acid in Coca-Cola is a legitimate mild acid cleaner, and it removes surface staining. It can pull light yellowing on some plastics, but it is not sanding the surface, and it is not protecting the surface. It is doing what dish soap does with extra steps. Duration before rehaze is under 1 month. No lasting benefit. Skip it. Method 5, dryer sheets. This is listed on restoration forums as a cleaning trick. Dryer sheets deposit a thin wax-adjacent coating that makes the plastic feel smoother and look slightly less hazy for a few days. There is no abrasive action, no chemical action on the oxidation layer, and no UV protection. This is a cosmetic detail trick, not a restoration method. Method 6, sandpaper alone, no sealant. This is the one that causes real damage. You tape off the surrounding paint, wet the lens, and start sanding with 400 or 600 grit. You work through progressively finer grits, 800, 1500, 2000, sometimes 2500. The lens comes out looking factory clear. It is genuinely impressive. Then you stop there and call it done. That is the mistake. You have just removed the remaining hard coat entirely. That lens is now raw polycarbonate with zero UV protection. Within 30 days, sometimes less, a new layer of oxidation begins forming on the bare plastic. It hazes faster after this treatment than it did before you started. Sandpaper alone is not a restoration. It is clearing the runway for a faster failure. Method 7. This is the first one that works. Wet sanding plus UV sealant kit. The kit does exactly what sandpaper alone does, but then it replaces what you removed. You are not just abrading the oxidized layer, you are rebuilding a protective surface on top of the freshly sanded polycarbonate. Done correctly, this holds for 12 months or more under real-world UV exposure and road conditions. This is the one that actually lasts. Method 7, Variation 2. Wet sanding, plastic polish, and UV sealant together. Adding a plastic polish step between the final sanding pass and the sealant application gets you closer to the original optical clarity. The polish fills subsurface micro scratches that the finest sandpaper leaves behind. The result is better light transmission and better adhesion for the sealant coat. This is the method that Consumer Reports and Project Farm both tested. Both hold for 12 plus months. The polish step adds 10 minutes and about $10. It is worth it. Here is exactly how you do this. You need blue painter's tape, a spray bottle with water, wet dry sandpaper in 400, 800, 1500, and 2000 grit, a plastic specific polish like Meguiar's Plast X at around $10, and a UV sealant kit. 3M, Sylvania, and Mothers all make kits that come with their own sanding discs and sealant. They run between $20 and $50. You also need 2 clean microfiber cloths and about 90 minutes per headlight the first time you do this. Step 1. Tape off everything around the lens. Every millimeter of paint, trim, and rubber seal gets covered. Wet sanding with 400 grit will cut through clear coat on your paint in about 30 seconds. Do not skip this step and do not be lazy with it. Run your tape line flush with the edge of the lens housing. Step 2. Wet the lens with your spray bottle. Wet the 400 grit paper. Start sanding in straight horizontal strokes, not circles. Keep the paper wet the entire time. You will see white slurry appear immediately, that is oxidized plastic coming off. Work the entire lens evenly. This pass takes about 5 minutes. Rinse and look at the surface. It will be uniformly dull and scratched. That is correct. You are establishing a flat base. Step 3. Switch to 800 grit. Wet both the paper and the lens. Now sand in vertical strokes perpendicular to your 400 grit scratches. This is how you know you have covered the surface when you cannot see any horizontal scratches from the previous pass. About 4 minutes. Rinse. Step 4. 1500 grit. Back to horizontal strokes. The lens starts looking less white and more translucent. 3 minutes. Rinse. Step 5. 2000 grit. Vertical strokes again. By the end of this pass, the lens should look almost clear when wet. 2 minutes. Rinse thoroughly and dry the lens completely with a clean cloth. Here is where most people rush. Do not go straight to sealant from here. The 2000 grit scratches are still there. They are just fine enough that your eye does not catch them when wet. Under UV, they scatter light and reduce your clarity. Step 6. Apply a pea-sized amount of Plast X or equivalent plastic polish to a clean microfiber. Work it into the lens in overlapping circular passes for 2 to 3 minutes. The polish is a very fine abrasive suspended in a light chemical carrier that fills micro scratches. When you buff it off, the lens should look optically clear. If you see any haze remaining, do one more pass. This step brings your light transmission back above 80% of original. Step 7. This is the step that makes everything else matter. Apply the UV sealant from your kit exactly as the instructions direct. Most kits give you a wipe on application with a foam applicator. The sealant bonds chemically to the polycarbonate surface and rebuilds a protective layer similar to the original factory hard coat. Let it cure for the full time on the package. Do not rush this. The sealant needs to bond fully before it gets wet or is exposed to direct sunlight. Most kits specify 30 minutes to 1 hour. Some specify using a UV lamp for curing. Follow the instructions on your specific kit. Remove your tape. You are done. The cost breakdown on this method looks like this. A full kit with sanding discs, polish pads, and UV sealant runs $30 to $50 at any auto parts store. The Plastix adds $10 if your kit does not include polish. Total investment, $40 to $60 and 3 hours of your Saturday. The alternative is a professional restoration at a detail shop, which runs $150 to $300 per pair and uses the same process. A full housing replacement on a modern vehicle runs $400 to $1,200 per side in parts alone, plus $300 to $500 in labor because 80% of lenses built after 2005 are bonded to the housing with adhesive. There is no lens-only replacement. You are buying the entire assembly, $60 versus $800. That is the math. One limitation you need to know. This restoration is not permanent. The sealant you apply is thinner than the original factory hard coat. Under heavy UV exposure, for example in southern states, at high elevation, or when a vehicle is parked outside year-round, expect 12 to 18 months before you need to reapply. You can extend this by applying a headlight-specific UV protectant to your lenses every 3 months. That maintenance step can push your restoration to 2 years between full redo cycles. If you want to stop doing this every 1 to 2 years, there are 2 options worth knowing. If you are running a classic truck or a vehicle that still uses round-sealed beam lamps, Hella makes a 7-inch round-sealed beam in glass for $100 to $200 a pair. Glass does not oxidize. It does not develop hard coat failure. It is UV inert. The same set of Hella glass lamps will look identical in 30 years as they do today. Summit Racing and Rock Auto both carry them. If you are on a modern platform and want to solve this permanently, Morimoto builds LED replacement assemblies out of Atlanta, Georgia. Their housings use a ceramic hard coat and carry a 5-year warranty. The LED array is rated at 50,000 hours. The assemblies run $300 to $500 per side. That sounds like a lot until you calculate that you are done. No restoration cycles, no clouding, no replacement housings. Over 10 years, the cost per year on a Morimoto assembly is lower than repeated OEM plastic replacements. Now, most people watching this are not replacing their housings today. Most people want the lens they have to last. So run the wet sand and sealant process. Do it right. Do it once. Reapply a headlight-specific UV protectant every spring and fall. You will get 2 solid years of clear visibility out of lenses that look done. Here's the bottom line on all 7 methods. Toothpaste, baking soda, WD-40, Coca-Cola, and dryer sheets are all borrowing time at interest you cannot afford. They remove or mask surface oxidation with nothing underneath to protect the fresh polycarbonate. Sandpaper alone is worse than doing nothing because it strips the remaining hard coat and causes the haze to return faster. The only 2 methods that hold for 12 months or more are the ones that combine abrasive cutting with UV sealant application. Because without the sealant, you are just sanding bare polycarbonate and handing it to the sun. The complete sanding grit sequence, sealant application steps, and product list referenced in this video are compiled in the full restoration guide linked in the description. One question before you go. Which of these 7 did you try first? Drop it in the comments. And if the sealant method held longer than a year on your vehicle, tell us what kit you used and what state you are in. That data actually matters to everyone else running the same process.